Have you ever walked into your garden at an unusual hour and found birds everywhere? The feeder that sat empty all afternoon suddenly becomes busy just before sunset. A blackbird appears long after you expected it to stop feeding. Sparrows gather at dawn earlier than usual. And during some of the hottest days of the year, birds seem to vanish completely, only to return when the light begins to fade. At first glance, it feels mysterious, almost as if the birds have changed their minds, changed their habits, changed their schedule overnight, but something remarkable is actually happening. Hidden behind these unexpected visits is a survival strategy millions of years in the making. A quiet adjustment that allows birds to cope with changing temperatures, shifting risks, and a world that is becoming increasingly unpredictable. Tonight, we're uncovering one of the most overlooked mysteries in backyard bird behavior. Why do birds suddenly start visiting at unusual hours? And what does it reveal about the hidden lives unfolding just outside our windows? The answer begins with a challenge every bird faces: heat. Unlike humans, birds cannot simply remove layers of clothing when temperatures rise. Their feathers are extraordinary structures. They provide insulation against cold weather, protect delicate skin, improve aerodynamics, and even help repel water. But these same feathers can also trap heat. When temperatures climb, birds must carefully balance two competing needs. They need enough energy to survive, and they need to avoid overheating. This becomes especially difficult because birds maintain body temperatures significantly higher than ours. Many species operate around 40 to 42 degrees Celsius. Their internal engines are constantly running, flying, searching for food, defending territory, raising chicks, and avoiding predators all require enormous amounts of energy. And energy creates heat. During very hot weather, feeding in the middle of the day can become surprisingly expensive. Not because food disappears, but because activity itself increases the risk of overheating. Scientists studying bird behavior have repeatedly observed changes in activity patterns during periods of extreme heat. Instead of remaining equally active throughout the day, many species shift their schedules. They feed more heavily during cooler periods, and they reduce movement when temperatures peak. To a backyard observer, this can look like birds have suddenly disappeared. The feeder sits quiet. The garden seems empty. Even familiar calls become less frequent. But the birds are still there. Many are resting in dense vegetation, sheltering beneath shrubs, remaining motionless in shaded areas where temperatures may be several degrees cooler than surrounding open spaces. From a bird's perspective, a patch of shade can become a life-saving refuge. Then, something happens. The sun begins to lower, temperatures drop, the air becomes easier to tolerate, and almost immediately, activity returns. Birds emerge from hiding, feeders become crowded, the garden comes alive. The birds haven't vanished at all. They've simply shifted their workday. In some cases, birds begin feeding earlier than expected, long before most people wake up. The coolest temperatures often occur shortly before sunrise. For many species, these hours offer a valuable opportunity. They can forage efficiently while avoiding both heat stress and competition. This is why dawn frequently explodes with bird activity. The famous dawn chorus is not only a spectacular natural performance, it also coincides with a period when conditions are often ideal for movement and feeding. When temperatures remain moderate, birds may spread activity across much of the day. But when conditions become harsh, those early morning hours become even more important. Every minute of comfortable temperature matters, and birds know exactly how to use it, yet temperature is only part of the mystery. Another factor is constantly influencing when birds choose to appear: predators. Every visit to a feeder involves risk. Every trip across open ground creates vulnerability. Birds are continuously evaluating danger. A hawk's hunting schedule, the movement of neighborhood cats, the activity of crows, the presence of people, all of these influence behavior. Different times of day present different levels of risk. A garden that feels unsafe at one hour may become relatively secure at another. Birds quickly learn these patterns. Research has shown that many species adjust feeding behavior based on perceived predation risk. When danger increases, feeding often becomes concentrated into shorter windows of opportunity. If conditions are both hot and risky during midday, birds may strongly favor dawn and dusk activity. The result is exactly the phenomenon many homeowners notice: birds appearing suddenly during unexpected hours, not randomly, not mysteriously, but strategically. Every arrival is part of a calculation: energy gained versus energy spent, food obtained versus danger encountered, comfort versus exposure. For creatures weighing only a few dozen grams, these calculations can determine survival. Then, there's another hidden influence: microclimates. Most people think of weather as something that affects an entire neighborhood equally. Birds experience something very different. They experience tiny climates. One garden can contain multiple temperature zones: a shaded hedge, a cool water feature, a dense evergreen tree, a sunlit lawn, a north-facing wall. Each creates slightly different conditions. To us, these differences seem minor. To a small bird, they can be significant. A location only a few meters away may feel noticeably cooler. Birds often learn exactly where these favorable pockets exist, and they move between them throughout the day. This helps explain another common mystery: why birds suddenly favor one part of the garden over another. The answer is often invisible: a cooler airflow, better shade, reduced exposure to direct sunlight. What appears random is frequently an intelligent response to environmental conditions. Many backyard birds know their territory with extraordinary precision. They understand where resources exist, where shelter can be found, and when those locations become most useful. This adaptability becomes especially important as weather patterns become less predictable. Across many regions of the world, scientists have documented increasing frequency and intensity of heat events. Wild animals are responding. Birds are among them. Some species are adjusting activity periods, others alter feeding behavior. Some expand use of urban environments where water sources are available. Others modify nesting behavior or seek cooler habitats whenever possible. These changes are not signs of confusion. They are examples of flexibility. Birds possess an impressive ability to adapt behavior to immediate circumstances. A sparrow doesn't need a weather forecast. A robin doesn't need a thermometer. Through physiology, instinct, and experience, they respond directly to changing conditions. Every unusual feeding time reflects information gathered from the environment. The bird is reading signals continuously: temperature, light levels, food availability, competition, threats, water access, all combined into a behavioral decision. And this is where the mystery becomes truly fascinating, because many of these adjustments happen without us noticing. We see a bird arrive later than normal. The bird experiences a complex set of environmental variables that shaped that decision. To us, the behavior appears surprising. To the bird, it makes perfect sense. Even visits after sunset can have logical explanations. Many backyard species remain active longer during warm evenings. If daytime feeding opportunities were limited by heat, extending activity into twilight can help replenish energy reserves. Light levels may be lower, temperatures may be more comfortable, predator activity may differ, conditions can become favorable again. Birds take advantage of that opportunity. Some species are particularly comfortable operating during these dim periods. Their routines naturally overlap with dawn and dusk. When environmental pressures increase, these windows become even more valuable. The result is a garden that suddenly feels busier after dark than it did during the afternoon. For observers, these moments often create the strongest sense of mystery. A feeder crowded at sunset, unexpected movement among the shrubs, calls emerging from fading light, yet these scenes reveal something important. Birds are not rigid creatures following fixed schedules. Their routines are flexible, responsive, dynamic, constantly adjusting to circumstances. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden inside this backyard mystery. Nature is rarely static. Even familiar birds are continuously making decisions, responding to conditions, solving problems, balancing risks, managing energy, adapting to a changing world. The next time your garden falls strangely quiet during a hot afternoon, don't assume the birds have gone. Look again at dawn. Listen at dusk. Watch as temperatures begin to fall. You may discover that the birds never left at all. They simply moved their day to a different hour. A silent adjustment, an ancient survival strategy, and a reminder that some of nature's most fascinating mysteries are unfolding right outside the window. Not in distant wilderness, not in remote forests, but in the ordinary gardens we see every day. Because when birds suddenly start visiting at unusual hours, they are telling a story about heat, survival, adaptation, and the remarkable intelligence hidden within even the smallest feathered visitor. The mystery was never why they changed their schedule. The real mystery is how long they've been doing it without us noticing. If you enjoyed this Feathered Mysteries investigation, subscribe for more science-backed explorations into the hidden lives of backyard birds. Because every garden holds secrets, and every feather has a story.